ganga mukayenche ya lero watukola nti ganga muka ojononie chojo kulia ganga mukononi kumpiya ganga mukoyiye ganga mukojo kole kubanga otekokola okubaawo nenchi ya lero nize Simon Muyanga Lutaya okutusa ku kibitu gy'okuba nabyo musawa dino atoluvayinyuma era ndakutwala buterevu mu bichi byetu gy'okuba nabyo wakati w'essaawa 9 n'essaawa 5 nga tutesa kumawulira amanni agabere mu kibuga Kampala oba mu Uganda yona ofuna update ku bice ebirikolebwa banaife bali mu gavumenti ababaire bageza ku sabiti yona bukyatufuna kikanga bwakasese okulondola ebijja mu maiso okulondola abayekera bano n'okubona nga bafuna ku abantu baife abandi abafira mu lutalo luno ate bali mu parliament yona tulida kuba tujana mu maiso parliament atandise okutiyama idukira nti parliament yamaze omwaka gwayo ogwokubiri omutongole bukyabagirayiza etandise okutambuza omwaka gwayo buti ogwokusatu ng'ogwokubiri gwawire ku bulungi ebisigaye byonna ebiri kutambula bibatwala mu mwaka gwakusatu omwaka ogwokusatu n'omwaka gwonka ogw'amagezi ogwa parliament okubaku nikyekola ebiseera ebisinga ebindi parliament edda kubeezera kyekola kubanga in the whole of their fourth year parliamentarians are raised in and out and we normally suffer quorum issues, the lack of quorum issues, because many of them will be back in the villages to undo their lies or to start promising heavens on earth on what they are going to do in their next terms. This starts now, and when it starts, the performance of all parliamentarians goes down. That's why as we wait for a report from the Speaker of Parliament this week or next week on the performance of members of Parliament, how many times they have spoken, what they have done, their attendance and everything, we know for sure that we will be missing so much. Kale, this morning I get a very interesting debate and submission to the European Union by a senior legislator, an old woman of all time, the Honorable Cecilia Ogwal. Cecilia Ogwal submitted boldly to the European Union a very clear position on that Uganda took on the Anti-Homosexuality Act and why that law has passed. Cecilia Ogwal explains very well that the law criminalizes the promotion of homosexuality. What is interesting about the submission is that Cecilia Ogwal, who is now out of the country, boldly submitted and defended Uganda's position and defended President Yoweri Museveni's decision to sign the law and assent to it into law. And she said, this is Uganda's position and this position will never change. But also, Cecilia Ogwal reminds the British that the current anti-homosexuality law comes from their very first law that criminalized the act. Says long ago, 1950, 1960, before 1950 actually, when the colonists were here, they criminalized the law, they made the law to protect Ugandans then, some very many hundred years ago, protect Ugandans against this kind of act. It says the same cannot turn around now to say Uganda passed a law that criminalizes anything because it is an improvement of what the British intended to have when they wanted to keep Ugandans in good check and to keep Ugandans on good morality. I want you to get it. I want you to listen to this. Then we'll come and discuss it later. But it is a very wonderful submission by the Honorable Cecilia Ogwal. Let's get there.
My brother, and you know that I've been very restrained from the beginning of this meeting. I've not made any intervention because I wanted to make a saving. Mr. President, you are aware that there has been a lot of campaign against Uganda. Allow me to address Uganda's House to two critical issues of importance to this country. First of all, I would like to bring to the attention of the committee the horrendous massacre that took place in my country on Friday night last week on the 16th of June. The horrific attack by suspected ADF terrorists, a branch of ISIS, took place in the border town of Mpondwe in Kasese district in the western Uganda, bordering the DRC Congo, killing 42 innocent students of a secondary school. Uganda calls upon the world community and OACP EU Assembly to condemn this atrocious act and killing innocent civilians by terrorists. The second issue, Mr. President, I would like to address this committee on is on the issue of homosexuality bill that was passed in April by the Parliament of Uganda and assented to by His Excellency the President in May this year. The passing of this bill has caused a lot of excitement across the world. Mr. President, sir, the law against homosexuality was first introduced in Uganda's status books by the British colonial government to protect unsuspecting Ugandan youth from being initiated into the act by foreigners. Mr. President, sir, and honorable members, the fact of the matter is that the new law was conceived to criminalize the promotion of and commercialization of homosexuality, mainly targeting innocent children in schools and vulnerable persons in our society, including physically disabled and mentally impaired persons. The practice had become rampant with reported promises for scholarship for children who adopted the practice. Several cases of children with injuries in their anuses and infected with HIV as a result were reported across the country. Other targets were the unemployed youth with promises for jobs and visas among other initiatives. This necessitated the enactment of this law to protect these vulnerable persons in our society. No country will condemn pedophiles in its country. No country will condemn the advantage that people are taking upon our vulnerable children. Mr. President, sir, the law criminalizes only violent homosexual acts and activity among especially children and vulnerable persons. The law provides for rehabilitation of all those who have been declared homosexual but are willing to come out of it willingly. We want to emphasize here that the law does not target those who are born homosexual, but those who have been initiated into the act as explained above. Parliament of Uganda, during the consultation with experts on this matter, have established the following. First, that homosexuality is not genetically determined. No scientist has proved this. Second, it is a form of mental state, it has been confirmed, and it needs rehabilitation for the victims. Third, it has never been a way of life in our society in Uganda and strange to our culture and tradition. Fourth, it is against the teaching of religion and our practices, and you all know all leaders in Uganda from the president to the lowest level have to swear by the Bible and the Quran before they take any office. Mr. President, it is a practice in Uganda now targeting vulnerable children and the disabled. After the enactment of this act, there have been a lot of misinformation about law that Parliament of Uganda has passed. We would wish to clarify, therefore, that this law does not criminalize persons who simply dress or appear to look like homosexuals. In addition, the law imposes the death penalty for aggravated offenses. I want to repeat, aggravated sexual offenses for both homosexual and heterosexuals, not for homosexual only. Aggravated sexual offense against homosexual and heterosexuals. Mr. President, take note of this. The law upholds the value of culture of Uganda as enshrined in our constitution, and therefore geared towards establishing the family life and promotion of human dignity with upright morals. Finally, Uganda delegation therefore implores fellow OC OACP and EU members to understand the reason behind this law and to support this move and promote the same in their countries. We join this partnership not to lose our sovereignty. I repeat, we join this partnership not to lose our sovereignty. We strongly implore this assembly not to allow the issue of polygamy and the issue of homosexuality to become a precondition for trade agreements and a basis for sanctions. Uganda strongly condemns resolution passed by the EU Parliament on the 20th of April this year, threatening sanctions against Uganda for protecting its children, its vulnerable children, protecting our children from injuries on their anuses, for protecting our children from being taken advantage of. Uganda is being threatened to undergo sanctions by the EU partner. You, the ACP EU group, we implore you to stand by Uganda. This is a vice which will start with Uganda but will end by you. We must stand up and prove we are a sovereign country. We are not going to be allowed to be dictated to when we are protecting our vulnerable children. Uganda therefore pledges to remain steadfast in its commitment to uphold, promote, and protect the human rights of its national and other individuals living in the country. This is in accordance with our constitution. I beg to submit, Mr. President.
Wonderful. What a wonderful submission by the Honorable Cecilia Ogwal. Very bold woman, a very bold submission, just right into the ears of those who she knew very well would not want to hear this kind of thing. I think Parliament has Webley used the seniority of Cecilia Ogwal in deploying her in this kind of conference. I am really moved by her submission, and I think no one else in the Parliament of Uganda has explained the anti-homosexuality bill with extreme clarity the way Cecilia Ogwal has done. I am really impressed, and I think your submissions made that the law targets promotion and the law is justified by the many reports across the country on this. How I wish the same effort, similar effort, support in deploying people and in deploying many of the members of Parliament to represent us ably, especially those who have knowledge and authority in some of the subjects that we want to discuss. It is an interesting one, it is a wonderful one, and I think the Cecilia Ogwal is a great addition to the Parliament of Uganda. I think Cecilia Ogwal is one of those long-serving members of Parliament, ones who have been in Parliament for quite long, and the great beneficiaries of the political gerrymandering that the NRM government has been doing. Because Cecilia Ogwal once lost a seat in Parliament, but later a new constituency was created for her, or a constituency created helped her to come to Parliament. We would have missed all this wonderful submission if we did not have this kind of thing. Kali, we have another report, interesting report in the updates, that Ugandans banywa nnyo omwenge. Amawulire ge tulina nti bannayuganda lipoota efulumya eraga nti munywa nnyo omwenge, era omwenge n'ebiragalagala bino bye biyongedde ebyomanyi bw'amateeka kweyongera mu ggwanga lyaffe, kubanga abamenyi b'amateeka beeyongedde kubanga mbu tunywa nnyo omwenge. Tetulina World Cup mu birala byonna, naye tulina World Cup mu kunywa omwenge. Ng'abasasi baffe bwenjagala bakuddemu alipoota eno giwulire biki bye tulina. Nga weyongera okunyiikiriza obulungi ebigambo bya Cecilia Ogwal, njagala kwebaza bannaffe abagabana naffe information eno. Ebigambo bya Cecilia Ogwal byetaaga okutuuka ku buli muntu ali ebweru wa Uganda n'ali wano mu Uganda okutegeera ddala ekituufu kiki Uganda kyali egendera mu tteeka lino, wadde nga teriko commencement certificate, but the law was passed and signed. It can begin anytime ne bakola mu bintu byabwe. So katulabe eggulire lino ku Uganda n'omwenge gwayo gwaga nti bannayuganda basusizza okunywa omwenge. We are award winners mu kino.
Okunoza okwakolebwa ekitongole ky'ensi yonna yonna eky'ebyobulamu ki World Health Organization ku butya abantu banywa omwenge kwalaga nga Uganda negema ekifo eky'olubereberye ku lukalu lwa Afrika lwonna nga mu kuwutenguyu n'omwenge ogwa buli ngeri nga alipoota eraga nti buli munwi buli mwaka oguwaaku abawunzika eritadde omwenge ebyesooba mu 12 bw'ogeganibwa ekiri mu mawanga agandi agali ku lita 6.18 buli muntu. Embeera eno eri kusinziirwaku ab'ebyobulamu mu eggwanga nga bawaala n'ekitongole ky'ensi yonna yonna eky'ebyobulamu ki World Health Organization okutembeeta kaweefube w'okulambika abantu okunywa omwenge ino taku n'okugira abaana abato okugwekamirira. Bano olwaleero bali mu lukuŋŋaana n'abakulembeze ku mitendera egy'endawulo wali mu Kikolo mu kibuga disitulikiti y'Eyinda okutema empenda awalala n'okubategeeza obuli mu batyami baibwe kwekamirira omwenge. Era mu lwokabano luno baluubirira okubita mu bakulembeze bano okutuusa mu loobuzi ge baeri abaka ba palamenti bakole ku iteeka erikugira n'okulambika okunywa omwenge mu ngeri ekyeyonoonere. Omugendo omukulu mu lwokabano luno abaire mubaka omukyala wa disitulikiti y'Etololo Sarah Opendi ng'onaakiikirirwa omukiise w'ekibuga ky'Eyinda eky'obugwanjuba Timothy Batuwa ng'ono omubaka bwe asutse okwenamira owalipoota yalaga nga Uganda bwewuuta enkangaali basula ne mu binwero.
Uganda ng'ensi egema kyakumwanjo mu kunywa omwenge mu Afrika yonna yonna okusinziira ku risaaki eyakatuweebwa. Era World Health Organization yalaga ebitundu ebindi bikalubirizibwa ku mwenge.
Omubaka Batuwa akuba nti etteeka lye baleeta mu palamenti ojja kutwala okunywa omwenge wabula okugira abaana abato okugunwa okukendeeza kusaba edinwerwaku n'ebindi nga bwenonola.
Etteeka lino likugira omwenge tirijja kutwala okunywa omwenge aye twenda tukugire kibe nti omwana omuto tanywa omwenge era targeting affected oba influenced na adverts ed'omwenge kibe nti omwenge tigutundibwa mu bifo bisuubwamu kuba gutundibwa gube mu tawuni.
Ate Dr. David Kalema owa World Health Organization akoba ate ekibaleese Eyinda n'okuwaayamu n'abakulembeze b'ekibuga kino kubanga eyo neekaasinze okuba amakolero agayisa omwenge ogwa buli ngeri omuli enkangaali esibwa wali emakenkene ewandago emayuge abayisa walagi ayetebwaliralira.
Olwaleero tuzze Jinja olw'ensonga nti Jinja tulaba ebikolwa ebityoboola eddembe ly'abantu mu ngeri ey'okubawaliriza okunywa omwenge nga bingi nnyo Jinja. Tumanyi nti amakolero agasinga gakola omwenge gali wano, tumanyi nti n'obukolero obutonotono buli wano, tumanyi nti ebivulu kati waliwo ekivulu ekinene ennyo mu East Africa bakikolera wano naye nga bino byonna biri mu kutumbula omwenge.
Ono agiire mu maaso yasaba ababaka ba palamenti okwanguyaku okubisa etteeka ly'omwenge okusobola okugira abaana abato abali gansi w'emyaka 2 n'omulala okunywa n'ebindi.
Eyanguye etteeka ery'omwenge tugisaba eveeyo erungamye ensi first of all ebintu ebikwatagana n'okutunda omwenge wabeerewo ebifo bikendeere ebinywerwamu omwenge essaawa zibeerewo emyaka twandyagadde bavadde bagamba 18 nefe tugamba gibeere emyaka 20 mugoma omuntu kwatandikirako okunywa omwenge.
Okusinza ku Dr. Afsa Lukwata Ssentongo okuva mu minisitule y'ebyobulamu akoba nti bannayuganda okukwatana n'okunywa omwenge kintu kya bulabe nnyo eri ebiseera by'eggwanga eby'omu maaso kakwota n'okuzingama ebyenfuna.
Naye nga ekyasinze otunakuwaza ekyokubeera nti Uganda kati twakutte akatiife tusinga okuba nga tunywa omwenge mu Afrika yonna. Ekyo kyannaku nnyo kubanga ebizibu ebiri mu alcohol oba ebizibu ebiri mu mwenge nti okukola abantu si bakozi tebajja kuba bakozi. Enkola y'emirimu ejja kuba ekendeerera ddala kati ate tubadde tusuubira nti tujja kuva mu bwavu naye abantu bwe banaaba bangi bo nga banywa omwenge then enkola y'emirimu ejja kubanga tekisi ya mulembe tetujja kufunamu mu ebyo byonna byetugezaako okutegekera abantu okuba nga bejja mu bwavu.
Etteeka ery'obutiri Enguli Act eryakola omwaka 1996 nga n'okutuusa olwaleero nerikalamula n'okulamuka enkozesa y'omwenge omwenge nga kino oba oliawo n'ensonga lwaki abagunwa benywera kyere nga wazira kye batiisa. Nezaton Palapande ku Baba TV Amakonde.
Wonderful. Just after the passing of the anti-homosexuality bill that is hyped as protecting our children, a new proposal now from that organization and another person there intends to restrict the age at which children begin okunywa omwenge. Balikati balikuleta iteeka eyaka omuntu abenga okutandika okunywa omwenge atandikira ku myaka 24. It will now become criminal for any child below the age of 24 okutandika okunywa omwenge. What are your views? I wish this is what my brother Matthias Mwanga should put up for us to have views. Endowooza yeri etya kuteeka eri kugira abaana abato okunywa omwenge. Erola ng'emyaka 24 baga nti waakiri owe 18 tagunywa owa tagunywa kitegeeza ebbanga lino omwana lyabeera mu ssomero waba ali ku university abenga takkirizibwa kunywa mwenge. That now will be a contradiction with the law of age of consent, the age at which Ugandans are free to make choices, which is the age of 18. Do we now see a separate law on drinking, or that the age of consent, even for sexual consent, is moved from 18 to 24? I am told, and reliably so, that the age of consent in Rwanda is 21. But I also know of a country in the West where the age of consent is 16. There is also another country still in the West where the age of consent is 14. Can Uganda move our age of consent, the age at which people can make choices? It now means that for you to be able to vote, for you to be able to marry, for you to be able to do so many of those things, you can only do that when you are 24 years. Do we need a law to restrict drinking alcohol in our country? Do we need a law on this one? This and more is what we'll discuss when we return after this commercial break.